George Smith Disappearance, 2005. George Allen Smith IV was a 26-year-old newlywed on his honeymoon aboard Royal Caribbean's Brilliance of the Seas in July 2005. On July 5th, after a night of heavy drinking, George and his wife Jennifer returned to their cabin around 4 a.m. At 4:30 a.m., passengers below heard loud thuds and men shouting. Crew members discovered a large bloodstain on the lifeboat overhang directly below George's balcony. George had vanished. Jennifer woke up alone in another passenger's cabin with no memory of the night. The investigation uncovered disturbing details. First, George's blood and a handprint were found on the lifeboat canopy. Second, surveillance showed 4 Russian-American passengers helping George back to his room. Third, these men were the last seen with George. Fourth, furniture was overturned, suggesting a struggle. Fifth, Jennifer's memory loss prevented coherent testimony. The 4 men gave conflicting accounts, claiming they left George alive, but witnesses heard arguments from the cabin. Years later, one man admitted in a recorded conversation to lying and implied the group knew more than revealed. The FBI faced massive jurisdictional challenges. The ship was Bahamian registered, the incident occurred in Turkish waters, and involved American citizens. No charges were ever filed. The case remains unsolved, with George's family believing he was murdered and thrown overboard. Amy Lynn Bradley, 1998. On March 24, 1998, 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley was on Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas with her family. At 5:30 a.m., Amy's father saw her on their cabin balcony talking to a crew member from the ship's band. At 6 a.m., she was gone. The ship continued to port in Curaçao, and passengers disembarked for hours before authorities were notified. By the time a search began, Amy could have been anywhere. What makes Amy's case disturbing are the sightings. 4 months later, a U.S. Navy member claimed he saw a woman matching Amy's description in a Curaçao brothel who said her name was Amy Bradley and begged for help. In 1999, a tourist reported seeing Amy on a beach with 2 men controlling her movements. In 2005, a witness claimed to have seen her in Barbados. Evidence suggests human trafficking. First, Amy was seen multiple times with the same band crew member during the cruise, despite his denials. Second, he failed a polygraph test. Third, photographs emerged possibly showing Amy in distress. Fourth, the cruise line's delay allowed traffickers hours to move her. The FBI offered a $25,000 reward. Private investigators traced sightings to Curaçao's trafficking network. Royal Caribbean faced criticism for telling the family Amy probably met a guy, instead of immediately locking down the ship. 25 years later, Amy remains missing. Her family believes she was trafficked and may still be alive. Rebecca Coriam, 2011. Rebecca Coriam was a 24-year-old Disney Wonder crew member working in childcare. On March 22, 2011, she vanished during a repositioning cruise from Los Angeles to Puerto Vallarta. Rebecca was last seen on CCTV at 5:45 a.m., appearing distressed during what looked like a phone argument. She was wearing men's clothing. Hours later, she failed to report for her shift. Disney claimed Rebecca was swept overboard by a rogue wave, pointing to one flip-flop found near a crew pool on Deck 5. But the explanation raised questions. First, Deck 5 was an enclosed crew area, unlikely to be hit by waves. Second, the CCTV showed Rebecca in distress during an argument, not walking on deck. Third, only one shoe was found in an area she had no reason to be. Fourth, her belongings were never found. Rebecca had been in a relationship with a female colleague and may have been experiencing emotional difficulties. Disney's investigation was criticized for delays notifying her family, cleaning the alleged accident area before investigators arrived, and providing minimal cooperation. Bahamian authorities concluded Rebecca was lost at sea. Her family rejected this, hiring investigators who suggested suicide, accident during an altercation, or foul play covered up by Disney. Her body was never found. Merrian Carver, 2004. Merrian Carver was a 40-year-old woman who boarded Celebrity's Mercury on August 27, 2004 for a 7-day Alaska cruise. On September 2nd, when the ship returned to Seattle, Merrian did not disembark. Her cabin was empty, and all her belongings were gone. Celebrity Cruises didn't notify her family or authorities. They simply sailed on the next cruise. Merrian's family only learned she was missing weeks later when she failed to respond to calls. When they contacted Celebrity, the company initially claimed no record of Merrian boarding. After proof was provided, Celebrity claimed she must have disembarked at a port. The truth was worse. First, Merrian never disembarked at any port. Second, her cabin was cleaned and belongings removed by crew. Third, no missing person report was filed. Fourth, surveillance footage was recorded over before investigators could review it. Investigators believe Merrian went overboard during the cruise by suicide, accident, or foul play. Crew members were aware something happened and attempted a cover-up. Celebrity faced no criminal charges due to lack of evidence and jurisdictional issues. The case exposed how cruise lines sometimes prioritize corporate image over passenger safety and proper investigation. Cruise ship murders. Kristy Manzanares, 2017. Kristy was beaten to death by her husband Kenneth on an Alaska cruise during a psychotic episode. Because the ship was in U.S. waters, the FBI intervened. Kenneth was arrested, tried, and convicted, receiving 30 years. This case shows proper jurisdiction allows justice. Dianne Brimble, 2002. Dianne died on P&O's Pacific Sky after being given GHB in her cabin, with 8 men present. Investigation revealed she was drugged without knowledge and died from overdose while the men left her. Despite evidence, prosecutions failed due to witness tampering, evidence contamination, and jurisdictional issues. The pattern is clear. First, crime scenes are contaminated by crew cleaning. Second, witnesses are discouraged from statements. Third, jurisdictional confusion means no authority has clear responsibility. Fourth, cruise lines prioritize operations over investigation. Sexual assault cover-ups. Sexual assault is the most underreported crime on cruise ships. FBI data shows hundreds of reported assaults annually, but this represents a fraction of actual incidents. Systematic problems include cruise lines discouraging reporting by blaming victims, ship security having conflicts of interest, evidence being lost or contaminated, unclear jurisdiction, and victims being offered settlements with non-disclosure agreements. A teenage girl assaulted by a crew member was told she was asking for it and discouraged from reporting. The crew member was simply fired at the next port with no charges. A woman raped by a bartender was offered a future cruise discount. Crew on passenger assaults are common because crew have access, knowledge of layouts, and confidence they won't face consequences. Some serial offenders assault multiple passengers across cruises before being caught. The 2010 Cruise Vessel Security and Safety Act mandated better procedures, but enforcement remains weak. Cody Morris, 2000. Cody Morris was a 25-year-old man who boarded Carnival's Paradise on September 25, 2005. On September 27th, he disappeared after telling friends he was returning to his cabin around 2 a.m. When Cody failed to meet friends for breakfast, they reported him missing. Searches found no trace. No witnesses saw him go overboard. Surveillance footage was unavailable. Carnival delayed notifying authorities until after the ship returned to port. Cody's cabin showed no signs of struggle. His belongings remained, suggesting he hadn't planned to leave. Cody's family believes he encountered foul play and was thrown overboard. The absence of witnesses in a ship with thousands raises questions about whether people were discouraged from coming forward. The case remains unsolved. Hue Pham and Hue Tran, 2005. Hue Pham and Hue Tran were a Vietnamese-American couple celebrating their honeymoon on Costas Europa in May 2005. On May 8th, they vanished from the ship in the Mediterranean. The couple was last seen May 7th evening. When they failed to disembark during a port stop, their tour group reported them missing. Searches found no trace. Both people disappearing simultaneously suggested this wasn't a simple accident. Their cabin showed no disturbance. Personal belongings remained. No witnesses reported seeing them in distress. Costa claimed they went overboard, but offered no explanation for how both fell simultaneously. Surveillance was unavailable. Theories ranged from murder-suicide to foul play to accident. Costa delayed notifying authorities and provided minimal cooperation. The case was quickly closed with no conclusion. Their bodies were never found. These cases expose an uncomfortable truth. Cruise ships can be floating crime scenes where jurisdictional confusion and corporate self-interest create environments where criminals face minimal consequences. Subscribe for more investigations. Comment which case shocked you most. And remember, once you board, normal legal protections may not apply.